Hi and welcome back to my channel and to the Regency series. I filmed this all last year hoping it would be ready for the Jane Austen festival, but I ran out of time.
I am most seriously displeased.
Luckily, I had a dress I could wear for this event.
I did manage to make a Regency bonnet in time and I proudly wore that around Bath, and you can check out the making process on my Instagram. But for now, here is the making process for the chemise and the short stays. I hope you enjoy it. Today I am recutting the chemise pattern. I did one previously for Harlots, it's an Amazon Prime TV show. I'll use it as a sort of draft outline and lower the neckline. I'm going to refer to a pattern in this book by Elisabeth Friendship, and this is the sort of 19th century chemise here, and this is the pattern. It's very easy to follow. I mean, you can follow the instructions bit by bit, or you can just measure yourself and go from there, but it's very simple. Probably need to narrow the shoulder seam as well, but I like the length, I think it could work, so I just need to change and alter it a bit. Don't forget to notch your patterns. It's very good to have in your kit and makes things much easier. Now, there are a couple of different ways which you can finish the neckline. You can either turn down the seam allowance and then turn it again and then hand stitch that down, creating a channel. Or you can make a binding, which is probably the most popular way of doing it. I've got a special little tool which I can use, just make it more efficient. Once the binding is on, it's pressed back, and then I just did a big running stitch in to hold it in place before I slip stitch it down. This then creates the channel for the drawstring. So for the front of the neckline, I'm just going to make some holes with this awl. I'm going to poke it through and make the hole that way, because I don't want to cut it. I want to stretch the fibres and then whip the thread around the hole, and that's how it used to be done, so I'm going to do it that way. So because of time constraints, I've overlocked the inside seams of my chemise much quicker, and you're not going to see it. But actually what you're supposed to do is a felled seam, and I'll show you how that's done. With 1/2 of your seam allowance, cut it down to half the length and then fold the other side over your cut length. This will encase any raw edges. You can then fold this over to one side and then slip stitch it down. The chemise is basically done, it just needs finishing off at the hem and the sleeve lengths.
This is another project which I started years ago and never finished, so hopefully we can salvage it. By the looks of it, I did fit it to myself, so we just need to work out if I altered the pattern from the toile and if it still fits. I got the pattern for these stays from Corsets and Crinolines, and as you can see it's quite a detailed design with piping and embroidery and lots of running stitches. You can see examples of these beautiful stays in this book, which I'll link in the description. I followed the shape of the pattern and roughly drafted it on my stand. So I'm just going to mark where I pinned it and take it apart to double check the pattern. It was more or less accurate, so we're going to make it up again in calico and do another fitting.
This is my favourite hem. It's referred to as a boar's back because it's shaped like... It's mostly used by tailors. I like to use it to shape my bodices. So where I fitted myself the other day, I took it in on the side here. So I'm going to alter the pattern and then I'm going to refit myself and then see how that looks.
So now we've made our adjustments to the pattern, I'm going to trace it out and use the new waist marking to shorten the stays. I've added the front and side piece together, and here I've made a side seam, so I'm left with 2 back pieces. This is just my preference. I haven't seen many examples of short stays in pattern books, but this is where I'm going with mine. This is the fabric I'm using for the top of the stays, and as it's quite thin, I've fused the back. For the other side, I've used a cotton coutil, which helps give it a bit more structure.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to sew all the top fabric pieces together and then all of the backing fabric pieces together. And then I'm going to bag out the whole thing through the centre front because we're going to add our lacing up at the front here. If you're looking for a domestic sewing machine, I would recommend the Bernina. I've got the 1008 and I've had this for maybe 5 years or so, but I've been using this same machine since college. So on one side I've done a stay stitch, and what that is, I'll just show you here. You fold all of the seam allowance to the back and then you stitch it down right next to the edge, and it just helps it roll over so you don't see the seam from the front. I'll show you with and without and we'll see the difference. So this is without the stay stitch. I don't know if you can see, but it just doesn't roll over that nicely compared to this side. It's looking rather cute at the moment. Next we need to do the bones. I'm going to put them in the centre front and then on the side, and then we need to add the gussets and the binding. I think this time I'm going to use plastic boning in the front and the sides.
There's a great reference for these types of gussets in Period Costume for Stage and Screen by Jean Hunnisett.
Because the layers are quite thick, it's going to move under the machine, so I'm going to tack it down first and then sew it down. I've got my binding on, I've got my bones in. I've just got to finish off the gussets here, and I'm going to cut down all of the seam allowance underneath and then use this to fold over like that. I really should have done this process before putting the binding on, because now that's not going to turn over, but hopefully we can hide it. First you make the holes with the hole puncher, and what is really good to do is choose a hole that is smaller than your eyelet, and then you can squeeze it in.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about the making process, do get in touch or leave a comment down below.